Hey everyone, and welcome back to Local Leaders of the Podcast. This is our Listen Up Livingston edition, and the guy that is sitting across from me, Mr. Shane Marler, is running for Parish Council.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to talk all about that today. What district are you running in?
District 1, which is Jeff Ard's current district.
Gotcha.
He's running for parish president, so I wasn't going to run against Jeff. Jeff does a fine job. And I wasn't going to run against him. So since he's moving up, I figured I could step up and help try to make a change, get our parish together.
Very good. Very good. And so before we get into kind of, what changes you hopefully can bring to the council, I want to talk a little bit about your history here in Livingston Parish. Were you born in this area?
No, I was actually born in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
North Baton Rouge, to be specific.
Gotcha.
I was probably 7 when we moved to Central.
Okay.
I lived in Central till I was 18, and I moved out here in 1988.
Gotcha.
Moved to Denham.
Yep.
And I've been out here ever since.
Yeah, see, that's 30 plus years you've been out in this area. What do you do now for a living, and how do you make your way in life?
So I'm a general contractor.
Mm-hmm.
I was a union iron worker back when I was younger.
Yeah.
I traveled. I worked the East Coast, Midwest. Mm-hmm. I got in with a demolition company, did a lot of demolition work.
Okay.
Really frugal with my money. I mean, I grew up poor.
Sure.
My dad always taught me to be frugal with my money, and he said it ain't how much you make, it's how much you save. Yeah. And that's always just stuck with me, okay?
Gotcha.
So when I was off working, I saved money, and I lived in a mobile home in an area. And as I saved money, it was a bunch of older people lived there. Well, I would go, I was friends with all of them.
Sure.
Hey, our family don't love, whatever, how old people get.
Yeah.
So I would buy their places with them living in them, pay them the money, and when you die, it's mine. And until then, it's yours. And I bought, that's how I started. So look, I own several properties now.
Yeah.
A lot of properties, actually, but it's been a good blessing. Let me say it that way.
Yeah.
But now, so I'm a general contractor. Mm-hmm. I have a commercial residential license. Mm-hmm. I mainly build custom homes for people. You have your lot. Hey, Shane, I got plans, or I need plans. I want you to build me a house.
Yeah.
And I come and I price it out, and we go through the process, and I build you a nice home.
Very good. Very good. And dream homes in some cases, I'm sure.
My slogan for my business is come home to quality.
Very good. Love it. Love it. Slogans are important. People don't realize how important a slogan is, but they matter. And so, how did you get into that from ironworking? Did it just kind of fall in your lap, or?
It didn't. So my dad, my uncles were all iron workers. Mm-hmm. And we'd go to the Union Hall for the meetings once a month.
North Baton Rouge. Yeah. Right where it's at.
And look, I'd see them old guys. I thought they were old. I was in my 20s. They was probably 60. Yeah. And they all hunched over walking in there. And I'm like, what's wrong with them? Like, I was young and didn't, I was strong and didn't really understand what they had been through in their life. Now that I'm older, I know exactly what was wrong. Their back and neck was wore out from being an iron worker.
Yeah.
So at around 30 years old, I realized, man, this is a young man's game.
It is.
I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
So, and I was traveling. I wasn't married. I didn't get married till I was 30. And traveling is a single man's game, okay? You can't be married and drag a family around the country because Pennsylvania today, Boston tomorrow, whatever. You can't do that.
Right.
So when I got married, I come here locally to work, but there wasn't any structural iron work to do here. He was a maintenance person.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not a maintenance person at a plant. I didn't like being around the chemicals.
Right.
So look, I took a pay cut and went to work for Cox Cable.
Yeah.
Like I was making $30 an hour, went to make $10 an hour when I started. But it's what I had to do.
That's right.
So, and look, in no time at all, if I would have known when I was 18 what I knew when I went to work at Cox, I'd have went to work at Cox instead of ironworking.
Right.
That's the best gig in town, a cable company. And I'm not advocating Cox or whoever, but look, it's an easy job.
Yeah.
The hard work I've done in my life to go do that, and it's all young kids. I'm like, look, y'all better suck this job up for the rest of your life. This is gravy train.
Absolutely.
So I worked at Cox. I was a cable installer, and I got to be a service tech. Then I got in, and I was locator. Like you call 811 to mark your lines. Mm-hmm. Well, I got in with, that's all I did was located cable lines. It was 4 of us. We all had certain areas.
Yeah.
Well, I realized that, man, everybody's calling this new houses.
Yeah.
So I was at a new house. I was at a new house every day, but I would go to the same house 6 times during the process.
Yeah.
So just so happened, Lakes at Fenwood in Walker, across from off of Duff Road, I bought a lot. A friend of mine was a builder. His dad is a builder with best friends. He said, come build your house in here. I'll help you build it. I'll tell you how to build it. So that's how I got started building houses. I built a personal house for me, and I'm like, still worked at Cox, building houses. So I built that house, and I bought the lot behind it.
Yeah.
So lived in this house, built another house, got my builder's license, because, you know, you can't build houses and have them for sale without a license. Against the law.
Right.
So I got my residential builder's license, didn't have my commercial license in, had my residential license. And the way I started, I would live in one, have one going, have them both for sale, and never not happen that they bought the one we always lived in.
Yeah.
We moved 6 times in 1 year.
Yeah.
And look, at that point, my wife said, look, tired of moving. And it had gotten so bad that I would sell furniture, shower curtains, everything but our personal clothes, I would sell with a house.
Yeah.
And that's just how it would go. You know? And look, they would buy the one we were in because it was decorated. They could see it.
Right.
The one I'm building, a lot of people don't have the vision to see it. So they would always buy the one we were in. We would negotiate, hey, I need 6 weeks, and we'd move into the other one.
Yeah.
And it was just a process. And finally, my wife said, look, I'm tired of moving. I'm like, well, great. So I kicked out one of my tenants in the trailer that me and my wife lived in when we first got married. And we moved back into that trailer for 2 years.
Yeah.
This was right around Katrina. And look, I was still building houses.
Yeah.
And look, Cox had kind of gotten corporate America on me. And I just, look, you know what, I'm going to build houses for a living.
Yeah.
And that's where I went. So
how about that?
Started building houses, and then, you know, you have to do continuing education and this kind of stuff. So the way around, and look, not that it would cost me anything because the vendors would give it to you, but it's the time aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know the requirements anymore. Because,
well, I believe it or not, I used to teach architects CE. Well, I would teach classes for them to get CE credits. A lot of them were design related and interior design related.
Right.
But yeah, it's something in order to keep up with your license that you have to do. And they were free classes, but it was an opportunity
it was a time
for me to
thing
pitch
for me.
myself as well,
Right.
you know, when I was in that career.
So what I did is I got my commercial license, because if you're a commercial contractor, this is how kind of messed up the system is. As a residential contractor, you have to have general liability, workers' comp insurance. As a commercial contractor, you don't have to have the general liability or the workers' comp. And you don't have to do continuing education, and it precludes the residential side.
Yeah.
So it cost me $100 a year for my commercial license, but that $100 to me is worth not having to go spend half a day or a full day doing the education classes.
Yeah.
So that's how I got my commercial license. And look, it progressed to where I do a lot of work in East Feliciana. And look, I've gotten in up there. It's a different niche of people up there, and they're real close knitted. And once you earn their trust, man, they're going to refer you to everyone.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of happened. And I do small commercial up there. I do a little small commercial here. But I don't really push my commercial side as much as I could. I mean, I'm a one-man show. And I've learned that I could do a lot of things, but I really enjoy building houses. And for me to be really good, because I'm very specific on detail things. To be the person I am, I can't do 13 different things.
Yeah.
Now look, I have a real estate license because I list my houses that I build, but I don't. If you call me up and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a house to buy," man, I'm probably not gonna. I'm gonna refer you to someone. I'm not gonna try to sell you real estate.
Yeah.
I save the listing aspect of listing a new home.
Right.
Is the reason I have a real estate license.
Yeah.
And look, I do those continuing education classes, but I can do them online.
Yeah.
I do them at the end of the year and just blow them out the way. So I am a real estate agent, residential and commercial builder, and a landlord. I own multiple rental properties now.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. And at some point, you decide you're going to run for council. Yep. And so let's kind of get into that. And I guess the first question right out the gate will be, why run for council? Why? Seems like you're a busy guy. You got, as my wife would put it, she used to tell me you need another thing to do, like a hole in your head.
That's absolutely right.
And so why add that to your plate?
And look, I had a lot of people ask me when I told them that I was going to run. They said, "Man, why do you want this headache?"
Yeah.
I mean, are you crazy? I mean, like, we know you're crazy, but
sure,
are you really this crazy? So, I go to the council meetings. I'm engaged. I know what's going on in our parish. Mm-hmm. And look, I look at a lot of the things that's going on. And look, there's a lot of good things the current council that they do.
Sure.
We are under the home rule charter now. We're not a police jury system anymore.
Right.
And look, it's real hard being a council member when you have a constituent call you, "Hey, my culvert's backed up. I got water when it rains. My house is fixing to flood."
Yeah.
It's real hard for that council person not to want to go out there and unplug their culvert.
That's right. And that used to be kind of what happened when it was a police jury system.
That's a police juryman's job. Now, with the home rule charter, that's DPW's job.
Yeah.
Now, look, they may be backed up, busy. It may be a 6-week wait. I don't know all the logistics of DPW's aspect. And look, I'm just using the culvert part as an example, but the council is really supposed to create the laws.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sitting in the audience looking at the agenda and watching what's going on. And look, there's some great councilmen. There are. I feel that I can do as good a job, probably better, because I'm gonna tell you, hey, this is the problems we have, and I'm gonna spell them out. Look, drainage is a main problem we have in this parish. You poll 10 people, 11 of them is going to tell you, "Hey, we have a drainage problem."
Yeah.
And look, it's just what it is. We have funding for drainage. It's just not being appropriated correctly. Mm-hmm. So I was chairman of the Livingston Parish Community Drainage Board. Mm-hmm. So we had the mayor of Albany, Miss McCants, I believe is her name.
Yeah, she's a great woman.
And look, it was 8 or 9 of us. We have some gravity drainage district members on the board. Mm-hmm. And look, we came up with several really good ideas. Hey, we're going to be able to look, and we didn't have any authority to do anything.
Right.
We were just a body to come up with ideas to help provide a solution.
Sure.
This was around 2017 or 18. In that time frame. I'm not 100% sure on the time frame, but in that area. Mm-hmm. So we had the watershed initiative. Mm-hmm. People come and look, they gave a great presentation. I learned a lot. A lot of the water we have here in Livingston Parish, man, it comes from other states.
Comes from all the way up the Mississippi River, all the way to the end.
It does. And
that ice melts and down it comes.
Correct. Yeah. And look, it's very intrinsic in every stream and canal and creek the watershed initiative people, they have those labeled. And look, and I didn't realize this until they came and shared it with us.
Yeah.
And it's almost unbelievable. It's really too much to comprehend. But here in Louisiana, you know, we're our own country,
right?
Per se. You know, we're under Napoleonic law. We're not under the laws as every other state.
Yeah.
But, you know, we think a certain way with the way we do things. So when you have out-of-state people showing you watershed initiative, we're not always receptive to hearing things that could help fix our problems. Now, look, it's a state-level problem with the funding, a lot of it.
Right.
I don't have the fix for that.
Yeah.
Here in Livingston Parish, I think the parish should have a culvert program that they own the culverts. They provide the culvert, put the culvert in. Don't let me as a builder, don't let me as a homeowner, when I'm building a home, go out and put a culvert in a ditch. You're supposed to have an elevation shot. They're supposed to come inspect. None of that happens. I can put a culvert in a ditch, not get a permit, and look, and it may get checked, it may not. The culvert may be the right elevation, may not be. But that's could affect hundreds of houses upstream.
Sure.
I'm sure you've heard this. I remember on Linder Road, they were redoing drainage. They was digging people's culverts out. Hey, you got to buy a culvert. Well, I can't afford a culvert, people were saying. Well, if you don't pay for one and have it here, we're going to dig your driveway out. We've got to have drainage. Well, look, when you buy a piece of property, you own from iron stake to iron stake, and the ditch is always on the outside of the iron stake closer to the road. So you don't own that ditch. How do you own that culvert?
Yeah.
You know, without that culvert coming in and out of your house you can't use it.
Right.
So technically, why should I pay property taxes on something I can't use?
Yeah.
So for me, the parish should have a culvert program. Car hits a culvert, tears it up. That ain't the homeowner's fault. If it was set property, car hits it, tears it up. Hey, the parish come replace that. They should mandate concrete culverts. Should mandate them. Go anywhere that's curb and gutter. It's usually, I'm talking about old neighborhoods, Kenilworth, Tara. They're concrete culverts. They don't deteriorate. They don't degrade. They're there. A lot of the problem down south, Maupaw area, French settlement, man, the drainage down there hadn't been addressed in 40 years. And back then, they used to use the corrugated metal. Well, look, I had some of them on some properties that's 30 years old. Man, over that time, I was having drainage issues. So I dug them up. No, look, I couldn't even find them. They had rotted and just disintegrated.
They fall apart.
So down south, which for me, I guess being in a construction business, it makes plenty of sense. But I guess if somebody didn't know, like if I got a puddle of water in my yard, I'm not going to go at that puddle, where the puddle's at, and go to my ditch. I'm going to start at my ditch and cut up to make that water drain. My point being, why don't we start south and clean the ditches and come north to make the water drain? And look, Lake Maupaw, Amiot River, Blind River, they all have issues. They silted in. That's getting addressed. That's going to help us tremendously.
Yeah.
But we have to get the people's ditches to drain into the Coyell Creeks and these places to get it to the Amiot River where it can get out.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of moving parts to that, even from the aspect of the average citizen just taking ownership of. I can tell you there's very few people in this world I hate, but I hate a litterer. I see you throw trash out of your car. That's what I think of you. You're trash. You're basically crapping on your own community, for lack of a better term. And enough of that happens. That goes in those culverts. That goes in those ditches. They clog up the ditches. There's a lot of issues with this parish. Look, I've been screaming for years the fact that we don't have a hazardous material drive here once a year where people can bring their leftover paint and they can bring their refrigerators and they can bring that are broken. They can bring all these things, batteries, all these things that you see dumped in these fields. Yep. Until we have that, you're going to have some problems. I looked at it way back in the day as the biggest issue with drainage long term, and how to really help it long term is to start at the beginning. And starting at the beginning is the dumping problem and these people throwing things in these ditches. There's ways to accomplish that. Look, I was in the paint business for 25 years. My number one question I got, where do I put my leftover paint? I can't throw it away. How do I dispose of it? Now with water-based paint, you can dry it out. Even oil-based, you can dry out. They make products, but you can't just throw wet paint in your garbage.
Right.
So what do people do? They dump it in a ditch somewhere, throw it out of their car.
And look,
that clogs up the ditches, and that creates a lot of issue as well. So the size of the culverts matter. All of those things, and it's a program that at some point needs to get instituted, because there's nothing here. There's no hazmat drive in Livingston Parish.
And look, it's not even hazmat per se. We need parish-wide trash, bulk trash pickup.
Absolutely.
So look,
that helps too.
So like Walker, my mom and dad live in Walker. Mm-hmm. Just say they got some limbs that fall at their house, and you cut some limbs on a tree, address the flower beds, whatever. You can put it at the road, call the city, they come pick it up.
Yeah.
Or that's already included in what you pay for garbage.
Yeah.
Now look, our parish, I believe, used to have bulk parish trash pickup. One of the things, if I'm elected councilman, we need to have that, because just what you said about the paint or whatever. Think about it. You see couches, you see mattresses. Mm-hmm. Guess what? They go into the ditch, okay, and they plug up the culverts.
Or they burn them.
Correct. And something else that happens, and look, it's like when we had the flood, people put all their debris in the ditches.
Yep.
So, I mean.
Or it floated there too. But
when people were gutting their houses, that's the place they had to put it. Now, look, I'm not condemning that by any means, but the public needs to be educated tremendously on how to prevent some of the issues we have with our drainage.
Yeah.
Now, look, a beach blow-up ball that gets blown out of your swimming pool that you're playing in the pool with, gets blown out in the front yard. Look, I have seen multitudes of those stop up culverts.
Oh, absolutely.
And look, that's just, hey, go pick the ball up out the ditch. Mm-hmm. But some people, that doesn't even resonate with them, that's going to plug up my ditch.
Yeah.
So it's an education process that we need to help our parish do. And look, we have to become one parish. We got to quit being the east side, the west side, north and south. We have to become one parish and focus on the drainage as a whole parish.
Right. I agree with all that, and those are great policies to definitely put into play, and something that you would bring to the table because you have experience with that, and you worked on that when you were on that drainage board that you mentioned.
Absolutely.
But you can only do so much. You bring that to maybe a council, and you just say, here's what we've come up with, and then it's up to them to enact that. And so I definitely applaud you for throwing your hat in there and saying, hey, I want to be part of the solution.
Right.
Because that's important. Now, let's talk about moratoriums for a minute. Always a great subject. Initially, they did this a year ago. They had a moratorium and ended up being a 60-day deal. They came up with what I thought was a pretty good, personally, what I thought was a pretty good ordinance, which was what they called 125, which made building a lot stricter from a standpoint of preventing future floods and trying to help with drainage and things like that. And I thought it was well thought out. I thought they put it together well. And most importantly, I thought the builders could look at that and they could have a roadmap of what they needed to do. And all that they've asked is that they know the rules.
And look, the Home Builders Association of Greater Baton Rouge actually worked with the council on the 125 ordinance.
Yeah.
And look, it's an ordinance that man, it's up here of what has to be done to where it was at.
Yes.
I mean, it's really almost unachievable. I mean, it can be achieved, don't get me wrong, but it's not just haphazardly happening.
Right.
So there's only one neighborhood, and it's not completely finished. That's under the new 125 ordinance.
Yeah.
It's up in Watson. And look, I want to say it's on 2 acres, and it's got a lake that's almost an acre. That's the requirement of it.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to a moratorium with everything that's going on here in Livingston Parish. Mm-hmm. The new moratorium that we're under, I had a problem with that because they did not identify, hey, these are the problems we're wanting to fix. Mm-hmm. This is how we're going to fix them, and this is how long it's going to take us. Right,
and for me, you just hit the nail on the head, and I'll go out and say it. I said this on a podcast I just did, and I'll say it again. If you need a year to fix that problem, you don't need to be a council member. You don't need to be a council member. It takes you a year to solve that problem. You don't need to be a council member. You need to do something else because you're dragging your feet. There's solution. First of all, I think 125 was fine the way it was. I think it would have fixed a lot of the issues, and I get it. We want to get things zoned and we want to take a little break, and I get that. You need a year? That, when Jeff Ard, who recently introduced, incidentally, folks, if you haven't caught up on this, they turned down the year-long moratorium. The council passed it. The parish president then vetoed it, and they did not have enough votes to override his veto. So Jeff Ard came up with another, what I would call more reasonable plan, which was, hey, 160 days. 2 reasons I like that. Number one, it's shorter. You get the pause you need to get zoning in place, and you can work with that Vilavasso, which is the planner. But what I also liked about that is if you came into the council in January, you don't have to then live by a previous council's rules.
Correct.
If you felt like, hey, we need longer on this, you could vote and take longer, extend it. But I think a lot of the council that did approve Jeff's plan liked it because, hey, we don't want to impose our stuff on a new council. Right. They're coming in here and they can make that decision. So that's another thing I liked about the plan. It'll actually end in February, which is about a month after that new council would take over and get their feet under them. Because let's talk about this. There's going to be a lot of new councilmen.
Absolutely.
Only 3 spots or, as of now, only 3 seats are still being, I guess, fought for or whatever. And there's no guarantee those people will all be voted in. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Assuming they did, you still have 5, 6 new council members.
So look, I can tell you from experience, I've been board of director member. I've been chairman of nonprofit associations, which runs similar to a council. It's all Robert Rules of Order. Mm-hmm. And look, but by the time, like when you serve first vice chair or second vice chair, first vice chair, then chairman, well, when you're in there as chairman, it's for 1 year on these boards.
Yeah.
But you're second vice chair first, so you're 3 years in, and look, 3/4 of the way into being the chairman, you finally, the light bulb goes off and you figure out what's really happening.
Yeah.
So about the time you figure out what's happening, it's time for you to leave.
That's right.
So with having all new people there, we need to retain someone that's been there.
Yeah.
So, hey, no, this is how we need to do things. Because you're going to be like a deer in the headlights up there. And look, even if I get elected, I'm not going to know every procedural.
Well, nobody will. I mean, even guys that have been in there 8 years now don't know. Nobody knows everything.
Correct.
But what you do bring to the table that's unique is the majority of what they do is construction related.
A lot of it, correct.
And you're a construction guy.
Yeah.
That's a big difference between someone, that's not
And look,
or has no experience in construction, because they have to learn even the most elementary of things. You already know that
correct.
stuff.
And look, and I think this, and I've thought this for a long time now, going all the way up to our federal government. Mm-hmm. I think anyone that's in an elected position should have to have been a successful small business owner.
Amen.
Because until you got to say, I have employees and I have to pay them Friday. Mm-hmm. Okay, if I don't pay them Friday, they're not going to be here Monday to work. Mm-hmm. And look, if you got plans to go camping over the weekend and it's up to paying your workers or going camping, you better not go camping.
Or how about paying your workers and not paying yourself?
Correct.
People that's been, I've been in that position. Those are real life decisions.
So look,
right?
that puts the rubber to the road in reality. So the government people we have I'm going to use the federal government because they're out of control with the way they spend money.
Sure.
So they don't spend it like it's their business they're running. Mm-hmm. They just got a blank checkbook.
Yeah.
It's like the old saying, I got checks, I got plenty of money. Yeah. I can write you a check.
Yeah.
Well, with a small business, guess what? You can write that check, but you better go have money in the bank.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you.
And that's why I think that it's very important that people have their heart in the right place when they run for any office. Look, treat it like it's yours. Treat it like it's your business. If you were to get in that office or anybody else that's running, I would tell them, treat it like it's yours. It's your small business. And, that way your decisions are always going to be weighted towards the right thing to do.
And I say successful small business.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are in business that aren't successful.
Yeah, that's right.
They mismanage their money.
That's right.
And look, being a business owner in today's world is tough.
Very tough. Look, I worked for a company for 25 years, and I'll shout them out, Farrell Calhoun Paint. And I'll tell you one thing about it. It's a 105-year-old family-owned business. And what I learned from them over those 25 years more than anything else was how to manage money.
Correct.
In business. They're frugal now. They're frugal. But they run an amazing business. They're debt-free. And I learned a lot. And I credit it to my survival and what I was doing with my second life, I guess you could say. But very important to do that in government. And it's not done enough. You're absolutely right. It's looked at as other people's money.
And look,
OPM or whatever.
The first 10 years I was in business, I didn't go on vacation.
Yeah.
I had a 10-year-old truck.
Yeah.
I was just frugal with my money because I had to be. I mean, I was having to shuffle money. Everybody thinks, hey, you a builder, man, you making a killing.
Yeah.
I work on about an 8% margin.
Yeah.
Is what I work on.
Yeah.
And look, that's unheard of in any other business there's out there.
Right.
I mean, and to be honest, if it wasn't for my rental properties, I wouldn't be able to be a builder.
Yeah.
I'm not a big developer. I don't do these big neighborhoods. I mean, I build homes for
Custom
people.
homes. Yeah.
I'm not a tract builder, and I don't develop neighborhoods. Now, look, I've done small developments, 3 or 4 lots. I'm not a developer. I enjoy building custom homes that, hey, I build you a home. I've never advertised one time to sell a home.
Yeah.
The people I build houses for refer me. I haven't been in business 25 years building bad homes or being a bad builder.
No.
And look, because all it takes is 2 bad customers and I'm out of business. Really
Absolutely.
one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a testament to what I do.
That's right.
To be in business for as long as I've been in business. And look, I still have a successful business.
Sure.
And look, I'm not going to quit building houses. I'm going to build houses till I die.
Sure.
I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
I'm giving people the most expensive thing they'll ever buy. I take pride in what I do. And it's something they can enjoy and pass down to their kids.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And it brings a unique bit of experience to the council. Now, you've been out there, you kind of been campaigning, telling people who you are, making yourself accessible. What would you say the biggest concern is from the people that you talk to?
So look, there's 2 concerns. The first one we've already talked about is drainage.
Yep.
And look, there's animal control that I've been hearing a lot.
I have too.
I don't have a specific plan for animal control. I know some of the municipalities have it. We need parish-wide animal control.
Yeah, and I agree 100%.
And I haven't gotten the parish budget to look at it.
Yeah.
To break hey, where could we, find some money for animal control? I'm sure, because look, I've looked at big budgets as well in my career. I'm sure there's somewhere we could find room to have parish-wide animal control. I mean,
yeah, and one thing that really shocks people is the expense of those programs are, they're millions. They're literally millions of dollars, which surprised me. I'm thinking $100,000. You build a few stalls inside. Yeah. No, there's a lot more to that, and just the spaying and neutering and shot keep up that you have to do. It is expensive. The great thing about where we're at now as a technology base in the world is those grants are easier to find. So even if you could have someone dig through there and just find that money, find a grant with a low match or something like that. With animal control, it wouldn't surprise me if there's some out there. I'm sure, but it's going to take some digging. And look, it's also important communication between your representatives, your senators, and your parish council. To me, is vital. Jeff talked about that on his podcast. We've got to get back to communicating with our reps and our senators, because they're the ones that know those grants before anyone else. They're the ones that get presented with them. And if you have no communication there, you may not know they even exist. Right. If you don't ask, there's so many of them, your rep may not bring that up to you or your senator. So something that I'm glad you brought up animal control, because that I've heard a lot of that as well. Traffic, and drainage, and animal control. Correct.
And look, we do have, getting back to that moratorium, we have a moratorium. And look, once again, there wasn't, hey, this is what we're going to fix, this is how we're going to do it, and this is how long. They did put a time frame on it.
Yes.
But the first two parameters, they didn't really address.
Yeah.
We got to get zoning, and then we got to get planning. Okay, so I think Mr. Villavasso maybe should have said, hey, and look, not to get any great detail with anything that he's given out, but look, these are the things that we're going to do in this moratorium that we have. And look, he had to sell himself to the council when they hired him. So what did he sell himself on? Why hasn't that been addressed to the public at one of the meetings?
Yeah.
And look, and I think that would
that falls under communication.
Right, but that would ease a lot of concern for me. Like what I don't know anything about him, and I don't.
I've heard, and I agree with you. I have not. I don't know anything about him personally. I have heard from several different people that firm is top notch, and I believe that, and I think that's great. And I think at the end of the day, working with a planner needed to be done, especially when you had such a issue the first time around with District 5 and their maps, and they were all messed up, and it messed zoning up for everybody, in my opinion. Because of that, thank God we are working with somebody that hopefully can help speed up that process and fix that process. But communicate that.
I personally own some property, and is zoned R1 right now. The new zoning. R1, I want to say, is 1 acre lots. They're half-acre lots, and it's zoned R1. And then in the same R1 zoning, there's a industrial zoning in the same subdivision. Like it's an older neighborhood. So I don't know how this was done. I don't know if somebody just got a map and started using a highlighter and looked at an aerial,
what's there now? Image. Well, there's houses there now. This needs to be residential.
Right. I don't know how they did that completely. But I know from my personal experience of what I own, it's not zoned properly.
Yeah.
I don't know the channels to challenge that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I'll say that I know with Tracy Gerlenhouse, who was someone that was always a proponent of zoning, was very important part of his platform. I know when they were in the zoning process, he would hold meetings and he would say, hey, look, we're going to have a town hall here. We're going to have the zoning map up. Yep. If you go to this meeting and you don't think it should be zoned this, get with me and I can change you.
Right.
You know, so I thought that was a great manner or way of communicating and getting the public out and involved. I think communication is an important aspect.
Absolutely.
If nothing else, you could be doing all the right things, but you're putting the public's mind at ease, which at the end of the day is who you're working for.
Sure.
And these guys, look, y'all, councilmen make like $1,400 a month or something like that. It is peanuts.
You're not doing it for the money.
You're not doing it.
And look, you're not getting kickbacks from anybody.
Yeah, you're right.
And look, I hear everybody saying, "Oh, well, they're getting paid." Well, I would like to know how they're getting paid.
Yeah,
I don't believe that they are.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody.
Yeah.
You know, everybody will have their own. There's always people out there that are going to create a conspiracy, and if it's not somebody new, they're the enemy. You know, it doesn't matter how much good they've done, they're the enemy because they're not new.
Right.
And you know, that's what the Facebook world has done. It's kept a lot of good people from running
absolutely
for office because they don't want to put up with it.
Look, I've gotten a lot of flack for being a builder. I've been, you know, I'm a cookie cutter builder. I'm this, I'm that. And look.
Meanwhile, they're living in a house somebody built.
Right. Look, I'm a Christian person, and God's blessed me with everything that I have, okay? And I have thought, man, why am I doing this? Recently, like, why am I having to hear this?
Yeah.
You know, my kids are on social media. My kids see this.
Right.
You know, and I asked a guy, another person is running a different district, and look, he's been brutal with me.
Yeah.
And I called him up. I said, look, I have a question for you. If you win and I win, are you going to work with me as a councilman to make us one parish?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, I have the people I'm going to work with already. I'm like, well, I mean, okay, great. But we have to be united as a parish, because right now we are different in our parish. We have 13 or 14 different taxing zones.
Yeah.
Just think about that. Why do we have, and look, it's a voted tax, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it also shows that everybody's grabbing for money.
Mm-hmm.
If we was one parish, one tax, and it got dispersed, because look, people in the South that's not being taxed, they come to Bass Pro, spend their money.
They do.
But the money doesn't get spent where they live, but that's where they're making it.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and that's right, and that's a real tough one.
It is,
because the other side of that is you'll see something like a neighborhood get proposed in for settlement, and that neighborhood is maybe 300 houses or something. Pick a number, and the residents say, "No, we don't want that out here," but the amount of tax dollars that would bring in so much money for their schools. It would bring in so much money for the roads.
Not big enough. And then look,
right.
And I've heard all of this, but look, what people aren't realizing, with those roofs, every 10 years a census comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Now look, a lot of people don't fill out a census, but it's very important to fill out the census.
Mm-hmm.
And if everyone in that new neighborhood filled out their census, they would get federal money.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge.
To help improve their schools.
Yeah.
And look, and it may take 10 years.
But if you don't have the growth going in,
you don't get the funding.
You won't get the funding. And so it's also worth mentioning that not everybody that moves in that subdivision has kids. Not everybody
Correct.
that moves in that subdivision has kids of school age. The average subdivision, 500 houses, takes years and years to build that.
Yeah.
If you're the fastest builder in the world, you're not building and selling more than 100 a year. So if you're doing that, you're doing good. You may even sell the lots, but you're not going to have all that completed. Everybody's moved in any sort of near time frame.
Correct.
A house like subdivision like Deer Run, I mean, you're talking about 15 years before that would be completed.
I would think so.
That's what people act like that's coming in tomorrow.
Right.
It's not. The schools will catch up. All of that stuff, the infrastructure will catch up eventually. Is it behind right now? Yes, because we saw an insane amount of growth. But, you know, the traffic, I live in Denham Springs. I travel to Watson. It takes me 20 minutes. I mean, middle of the day.
And look,
you go to Baton Rouge, you can't get from Seegan to Airline in 20 minutes.
Correct. But look, something that most people don't probably even realize is that when you're going from Denham to Watson, you're on a state highway. You're not on a parish road.
Right.
So that's not the parish's responsibility,
Right.
if that makes any sense.
That's right.
I know the average person, I'm in Livingston Parish, I need to call the parish to make traffic better, get the lights synced.
Yeah.
Well, that isn't a parish red light. That's the state.
Yeah.
And look, we all know how the state is.
Yeah.
The state can't walk and chew bubble gum.
Right. And we all complain about it, but you know, there's been a lot of good things come out of that. There's a lot of money for infrastructure now that is coming through the pipeline. And so those things hopefully will address themselves. So I actually made a copy of our most recent agenda for Livingston Parish's Council. This will be a lot of the things you'll be doing should you get voted into office. And this is from the agenda from September 14th, so pretty recent. One of the things they did, Roger Wilder, he's running for state rep. There was an introduction by Aaron Sandifer of him. Then they went through and they adopted the minutes of the meeting, which is
that's
typical stuff. The parish president's report, they adopted a resolution for a National Rail Safety Week. They adopted a resolution to merge precincts. Jared Andrews from the Registrar of Voters, and that's something important for all of you folks to take note of. Make sure what precinct you vote in this go-round, because they have merged some precincts. Some had too many people, some didn't have enough people, so they merged those to, I guess, cut down on how many people they need to manage these facilities. So that was adopted. Let's see. They did a servitude revocation, dealing with servitudes. You know, something that you do a lot as council people. They extended the 12-month moratorium on the Class 6 injection wells.
Carbon capture.
The carbon capture stuff. So they had a year-long moratorium on that. They extended that. I think it was 120 days. So another 4 months as well. That was asked for by Shane Mack. They adopted a resolution to name an unnamed road. That happens a lot.
Yep.
You know, you get these unnamed roads. So these folks are some of the things, and you can see we're running the gamut here. Everything from proclamations to introducing political candidates to adopting minor subdivisions. All of these things taking place.
And look, and I haven't looked at that waiver. I was at the prior meeting, and I did take note. I want to say there was 18 agenda items on the meeting I was at, and something that just it caught my attention, and I marked it. There was 9 waivers that were given out of 18 agenda items.
Yeah.
So for me, as a council person, if
the goal would be not to have to do waivers.
So if I'm there making laws, are my laws not sufficient? Are they overburdensome? Why are we having to give the waivers?
Yeah.
You know, that would be something that I would try to look at and try to, you know, not have to give so many waivers. I mean,
that's right.
And that's the agenda is waivers.
Well, and that's right. And it's a living document, so to speak. So when you make law, you create legislation like 125 that we talked about. As you go along, you will learn and you will have to adjust maybe certain things in that. And that's okay. But one of the ways to tell that is if you're constantly having to do waivers. Well, we've given 200 waivers in the last 6 months on this same issue, maybe we need to look at changing this issue.
And look, a lot of the things that happen in our council is a knee-jerk reaction to something that has happened. Yeah. It goes back to the planning part. We 100% need a professional planner.
100%.
The council members They're not, none of us, none of them, none of us, me included. I'm not a planner. Okay. I need a professional to help me with that.
Yeah.
Look, that's hiring someone is a great start.
Yeah.
Got to have the planning. And look, it's got to be smart planning and smart growth. We have a tremendous opportunity here with Interstate 12. It's a corridor.
Yeah.
Livingston Parish has a bunch of undeveloped land on each side of it. Look, we could draw in tremendous industry, which would generate revenue for us.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that our friends in Ascension Parish have done right.
And look,
there's a lot of industry there.
But Ascension, to be fair, they had Mississippi River and those chemical plants or refineries, whatever. It may not be refineries, it's chemical plants.
Yeah.
That Ascension Parish is a wealthy parish.
Absolutely.
Just because of the industry that's there. Livingston Parish doesn't have that so much.
That's right. The average person that lives in Ascension Parish, they work in a plant, they're an operator, and they're making $160,000 a year plus turnarounds. And you and I both worked at. Look, I was a pipe fitter helper.
Yeah.
Grinded on pipe until I figured out I didn't want to do it anymore.
Those guys in Ascension
Back in
Parish,
the day,
they drive in their parish to go to Ascension. They don't leave the parish to go to work.
Yeah.
Most people in Livingston Parish drive to East Baton Rouge Parish.
Bedroom community. And look, my goal has always been since, my mid-30s probably, was one day I want to do something to help Livingston Parish become not a bedroom community. I want people to work and play here.
Yep.
And live here, and that's been a personal goal for myself. I hope that's a personal goal for a lot of people, because we've got some great things here. We got the Amite River here.
It's a tremendous parish. We got the Amite River. We have the Tickfall River.
Yeah.
Great
fishing.
The potential here is tremendous. We have to get the planning and get the vision.
Amen, brother. Vision.
And Livingston Parish can really be. And look, it is a place people want to come now, but it could really be flourishing. And look, it won't take a whole lot of work. It's going to take work, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But with just a little bit of vision and the smart planning, Livingston Parish can be really something people are really proud. We won't be, hey, that's the Livingston Parish, man. That's a bunch of rednecks out there.
Yeah, but everybody's jokes. That's right. And look, so we want to remind you again, Mr. Shanemarler, first of all, thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Really enjoyed talking. We could talk about that for hours.
Yes, sir.
Early voting, folks, starts September 30th. Your district is District 1.
District 1. District
1. So Shane Marler, District 1, look for him. If you like what you heard out of him today, give him the vote. Give him the vote.
Absolutely.
Again, early voting September 30th. That runs for 1 week, and then October 14th is Election Day. Going to be a busy Election Day. So if you can early vote, do it, because we got a gubernatorial election. We've got all your local stuff. Sheriff's election is that day. So there's a lot going on. If you can make it to early vote, please do so. But whatever you do, just vote, man.
Go vote.
Vote. Let your voice be heard. We're the most wonderful country in all of mankind, and I believe that the biggest reason for that is our voting, and hopefully we'll keep it that way. So thank you again for coming on.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, reminding you, love your community, support local business, and keep leading. Thank you very much.